Um, do you see my screen? I'm actually on Prismic. I think you can click twice to maximize the video. Okay. Can you get a thumbs up on the comment section if you see my screen? Right. Okay, awesome. Cool. So I'll start. All right. So my presentation is going to be about Next.js static generation features with the Prismic and Vercel. And I'm Shu. I'm a product engineer at Vercel, and I'm at ShuBcode on Twitter. So, okay, here's the outline. And I'm going to go pretty quick. So, because I think I'm going to assume that you're somewhat familiar with Next.js already. But just for a quick introduction, Next.js is developed by Vercel, and we call it the React framework, and it has a pretty great DX for developing React apps. And Vercel used to be called Zeit. We changed our name a few months ago, and it's the front-end app deployment platform. And so you can deploy your front-end or Jamstack apps. And all you need to do is just do git push, and then that will deploy your app to our cloud. So I'll just show you a very simple Next.js app deployed on Vercel. So here it is, and I will try to copy the URL to the chat, so you can just take a look. Okay, so I pasted in the sessions section right here. And if you click on the app, it's a very simple app. It's got the main section and then the menu. And I can show you the code. But before I do that, let me show you the Vercel dashboard. So this is deployed on Vercel, and this is what it looks like if you deploy your app on Vercel. And you can see that it has a Git integration, and it's linked to my GitHub repo. So if I click on this, you can see what's actually being deployed. So this is the GitHub repo, and I'll just share it with you guys on the chat. So I just pasted the URL on the chat window, and you can browse the app. But for now, I'm just going to show you what just the basic code. So this is the page, right? And you can take a look by going to the pages directory on GitHub. And then this is the page, and it just has the layout component. I'll try to make it bigger. It's got the layout component and the title of test page, right? So I'll just use two windows. So it's got the test page right here, and it has the menu item and the body. So that's it. And then the layout component just has the just the regular JSX. So that's the app. And what I want to do today is to integrate this app with Prismic, right? So on the next step, I'm going to talk about static generation with Prismic. So what static generation means is that Next.js can pre-render a page into static HTML build time by fetching external data. So in this case, I'm going to fetch data from Prismic and render that into static HTML at build time. And this static HTML can be cached by a CDN. And Vercel, we have a thing called Edge Network, which is basically our CDN. And it's got the first-class support for Next.js, caching Next.js pages. So Next.js is going to fetch some data from the data source at build time. And then each page is going to be pre-rendered into static HTML, which can then be served by CDN. So I'll show you the demo. So first of all, I've created a custom page type on Prismic. Each has the UID, which is a slug. It's like a permalink, and then title and body. So here is, here's the Prismic page. And so I've created the page with the UID, title, and body. And I've created two pages, home page and then the about page. So the home page says this is the home page, right? And then the about page says this is the, it's small, but it says, this is the about page. So let me show you the app itself. And so yeah, I've created 2 pages, and the app is right here. I'll show you. I'll link to this in a second, but it's got the home page and then about page. So if I click on the navigation, you can see that it's got 2 pages. So it's actually fetching data from Prismic. So let me show you the source code, and I'll show you the GitHub pull request. So the way it works on Vercel is that every time you open the pull request on GitHub, it gives you a preview deployment. So, which is actually what I was showing right here. So I'll share this pull request URL with you guys on the chat. So you can take a look at the PR here. And so it's nice in Vercel because every time you work on something new, you get its own deployment. So you can quickly check what you're working on and share that with your teammates. So let me share the changes. So the biggest thing is that on the page file that we showed last time, I've added 2 functions. It's called get static paths and get static props. And this is calling functions get data, which is actually fetching data from Prismic. So let me check out this get data function right here. It's on the live/api.js. And get data is actually calling a function called fetch API, which I wrote. And it's using the GraphQL query, which is supported by Prismic, to get all the pages, which is required for the navbar, and then the page data itself, which contains title and body. And this fetch API function is just it gets the API token, and then from the environment variables, and then I just call Prismic's GraphQL API URL with some of the parameters using just a regular fetch, right? And then get the JSON and return that. So it's pretty simple. It's only like, it's not too long. And that's how I am getting data from Prismic at build time. So every time I push this app to Vercel, and the Vercel builds the app for production, these functions run, get static props and get static paths run, and then get fetch data from Prismic. Get static props is the data is responsible for fetching the page content itself, and get static paths is responsible for deciding which pages to generate. So in this case, we want to generate /home and /about, and get static paths is basically we're trying to get all the slugs that we need to generate. So yeah, that's it. And so I'm going to go back to the slides. So now I'm going to talk about updating existing pages statically. So there's a problem where if you wanted to update an existing page on Prismic, it doesn't update the site. So let me show you what that means. So like if I update the about page and and say hello everyone, I've added this text right here on the about page, and I publish the changes on Prismic. But even if I refresh the page, it doesn't get updated on the about page, right? Even though I've added, hello everyone, right? And that's because static generation happens at build time. So if I wanted to, have this reflected again, I have to rebuild the entire Next.js app. But that's sometimes expensive, right? You don't want to do that. Sorry. So the Next.js has a feature called incremental static regeneration, which is about updating existing static pages on a per page basis at some interval. So it lets you update existing pages at some time interval so that you don't have to rebuild the entire app. And again, Vercel's Edge Network has the first-class support for doing this. So Next.js fetches updated data, right, and then update existing static generated page at some time interval without triggering full rebuild. So you can partially rebuild parts of the app. And that's pretty, so let me just show you the demo. So I'll click on this guy, and this is about page, and And now if I refresh, it says, hello, everyone. Let me change that to thanks for listening, and save and publish. See if that works. So now it's going to take, it gets updated to thanks for listening. So it dynamically updates, regenerates statically generated pages, basically. So I'll show you the PR again. So I'll send you, so I just shared the PR on the comment section one more time. And the only thing I did was I actually added one line to get static props function and said unstable revalidate. And it says unstable because this feature is still in beta. But basically, this means like it refreshes or it statically generates the page again every 5 seconds at most. And the logic for this is not really like, the reveal runs every 5 seconds, but it's kind of like if there are requests coming in like constantly, then it's going to refresh every 5 seconds. If there's no requests coming in, the reveal doesn't happen. And you can read the documentation on exactly how this behaves, but yeah, this is how you can regenerate statically generated pages. So, and I've got the demo where you can learn about this feature, and I'll show you that here. And then basically this demo fetches the reactions from this GitHub issues, and then you can add your reaction to this issue, and then that will get updated here. And I have some explanation of exactly how the revalidate happens. So if you wanted to learn about the details, please take a look at this page. Okay. All right. So I'm going to continue. Now I'm going to talk about adding new pages, right? So the problem is that even though updating an existing page works, adding a new page in Prismic doesn't really work as of now, because if I add a new page on Prismic, and then we're like, okay, this is started page, and I'll publish this page. And let's see, just make sure. Okay, I will come back here. So I have the third page up in the menu, but if I click on the third page, I'll get the 404. 1 second. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, so updating existing page works, but then adding the new page doesn't work, right? Okay, I've got some questions coming up on the chat. I'll answer them at the end. So for now, I'm going to talk about adding new pages statically. So this is a demo, and I have so many tabs open. Let's see. Okay, so I got the third page, and if I click on the third page, it actually works, right? So to get adding new page to work, I will show you the PR. Again, you can just go back from the previous pull requests and then just click on the third one, fallback pages. And to add the new page, you have to change the get static path to return a parameter called fallback true. And then that way, it basically kind of like generates new pages like lazily. So if there's a new request coming in and then the page is still not there, if the page is still not generated, then it's going to try to regenerate the page in the background. And during that time, it's going to show the loading indicator and then show you the page. And if the page isn't found, then it'll show 404. So that's how it's regenerating the last page. So that's adding new pages statically. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is preview mode. So the preview mode is simple. So Prismic allows you to, like, when you're working on a page, for instance, homepage, allows you to kind of like make the change, right? preview mode, and then you can save. But at this point, this is not yet published. You have to click publish to to see the changes, right? So this is in the draft state. But Prismic has got the view button right here, and if I click on that thing, it will show the page in preview mode, right? So it has the text preview mode, and if I change that to just preview and save, and click on the preview button again, it says preview, right? So what this is doing is that it's actually bypassing static generation, and it's doing server-side render on every single time. And Next.js supports skipping static generation and then just showing the page just rendering the page every single request, and that's on the preview mode, PR. And this is kind of too long to explain right now, but I've got the documentation link for you later. But basically, you can write a file under pages/API, and then in that page, you can write some code basically and then to do the preview. And I have some documentation for you to check it out. So basically, the conclusion here is that Next.js has like the best of both worlds. It's got the static features, so you can pre-render a page into static HTML, so it's fast, cheap, and always available. So even if the data source goes down, your pages will still be available because it's already pre-generated. But then it's got the benefits of dynamic, right? So you can get the data updated in the background, or you can bypass static generation, or you can add new pages dynamically. So you don't have to build an entire app during the build step. You can incrementally add content later on. So this is the set of documentations, which I will just point out to you on the chat. Okay, here. Oh, yes, sorry for not ignoring this. And can I paste this here? Is it too long? Okay, I'll share this link one by one, and I'll share the slides again. But yeah, thank you so much. Sorry, it was very quick. I was told I only have like 10 minutes, but yeah, thank you, and let me know if you have any questions on Twitter or anywhere else. That's it. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Shu. That was great. I mean, I guess there's already a couple questions in the chat.
Yep, I can answer. Yes, so I'll start from Kevin. It says, does it follow? I shouldn't show it. Does it follow SWR approach while doing the refetch? Yes, it does. It actually follows the stale while reevaluate. So SWR is kind of the caching policy of called stale while reevaluate. And I have the document. I'll show you the demo again. So reactions demo. So I'll just go through the steps. Here's how it works. So each page can define the timeout. So it's like 1 second or whatever. When the new request comes in, the statically generated page, which is like the existing page, gets served. So it's like the stale page, right? So this is still the old content. But when another request comes in after some defined period timeout is exceeded, then the user still gets a stale content. But then in the background, Next.js generates a new version of the page and updates the static page for future requests. And then when some other request comes in, then the updated static page is served. So the user will always immediately get some content, and it could be stale, but then most likely most users will get the updated content, which will come after. So, and where's the documentation for unstable value? Yes, hopefully this page I'll paste again. And okay, so Kevin, does that page then get cached? It wouldn't fall back once. I'm trying to understand. The question is, does that page then get cached so it wouldn't fall back more than once? Yes. So when it on the fallback pages demo, right? Let's try to see. Yeah, let me just link to the docs. And so you can go to the Next.js docs, and then on the data fetching docs, which I will paste on the chat, and look for fallback. And if the fallback is true, then in the background, Next.js will statically generate the page when you hit the page that's not yet generated, and then when it's done, it gets added to the list of pre-rendered pages. So it will only fall back once, right? So like it's gonna get cached. Okay, and let's see, how does the client pre-cache? Okay, so the question is, how does client-side navigation work? Yes, so the client-side navigation, I think, works because when you do static generation, when you do like get static props, it not only generates HTML, but it also generates JSON. And then when you do when you go from page A to page B, it fetches the JSON file, which is like the result of the get static props. So on the clients, when you do client-side navigation between two pages that are already statically generated, it's going to be instant, because you go from page A to page B, and then you basically, when you go to page B, you fetch the JSON, which was already the result of like the static generation. So it doesn't call Prismic on client-side navigation. It will just happen instantly. So yeah, I'm using the same code. And what's the recommended way for user? Oh, okay. So yeah, so the question is how to exit the preview mode. So I actually have the button. Where is this? So many tabs. Okay, so to exit the preview mode, you can just write, so this function, exit preview.js. I can share this PR for you on the chat. Basically, you just call, you write an API route function, which is like basically like a Node.js handler, request handler, and then do the response.clear preview data, and then you just redirect back to the index page, and that will cache. So preview mode is done using cookies. So by doing clear preview data, that just like clears the cookie. So that's how you exit the preview mode. Is that a Vercel hat? Yes. Yes, I got this when I joined. Yes.
It's an important question so far. Well, I guess if there's no more questions, we can hand over to Renaud and Hugo to do their presentation on Next.js support for Slice Machine. I guess, Shu, like, thank you very much. That was really good, and obviously a lot of people found it really useful. And then I guess if you could hang around, because there's a good chance that there might be Next-related questions that come up during the Slice Machine discussion that you will probably be the best person to answer.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so I'm going to actually, just for the sake of the recording now, I'm just going to really quickly create a second session that you're all going to be able to join from the main event. And from there, it will be a session like dedicated to the Slice Machine, Next.js support for Slice Machine. So if you drop out of this session for 2 seconds, it should prompt you on the reception to join the second session, but it will just make it easier for the recording that we'll then be able to share the recording separately. So 2 seconds and we'll be back.